Today, folks, we're talking about the so-called currency of the apocalypse. Many of you have asked me to touch base on precious metals, and I've talked about gold in the past, and I have yet to dabble down into the silver market. So I thought it'd be fun today to go over this and just taking a look at silver's charting. Back in March when we saw the bottoms around 12.27, oh my God, has it rebounded a little more aggressively than gold has, trading up over double at $25.43. Now, there has been many misconceptions around the supply and demand problems with the precious metal market, as most people believe a lot of gold bugs out there have been kind of running this conspiracy that most of these metals exist on paper and not in actuality, but most of those are based on options and futures and really can't equate to actually exploding the precious metal market. But if there is one thing that can control the supply and demand, that is the wonderful stimulus that is going on that is driving down the US dollar here, folks. Now, this is where people kind of get confused, but obviously if you understand inflation, for every one new dollar they print, it devalues the one next to it. And in these kind of inflationary markets, if there's one thing you're going to want to own, that is assets. And you could compare that to, say, real estate, stocks, or heck, even the precious metal market here, folks. And what gets more advantageous on the supply and demand side of things than watching investors flee away from the dollar into these assets? This is where we're not only seeing the increase of demand, which is something that's going to continue moving forward, in my opinion, but every cent that dollar drops, which is down 12% over 2020, is going to continue to increase the currency conversion rate to these assets like silver, like gold here, folks. But if there's one thing many of you OG subscribers are aware of, as much as I love looking at silver and playing around with these coins, and this is like an apocalyptic coin with the Morgue Ann, as they're called, kind of like a decrepit, falling apart queen there, I'd much rather own the actual miners and producers of these products. And I want to show you why, because silver, trading up almost double doesn't equate to the growth value of these miners and the capabilities of having tens, if not hundreds of millions of ounces in the ground here, folks. And we're taking a look at Silver Dollar Resources. This is an actual Canadian mine. They got some exposure to Mexico. We're going to go over this primarily from the fact that, yeah, over 2020, silver doubled, but this company is trading up 509%. We're going to talk about the good, we're going to talk about the bad and the ugly, but why would I rather own these? Because your upside potential is so much greater, considering a lot of these mines were struggling leading into 2020, but oh my God, did this stimulus, did this crash change the entire outcome of these mines? And the upside potential is unbelievable in comparison to, say, doubling your money, holding a coin that when you go to sell it, you're going to pay high commissions, and there's just a lot of fees that come into play, whereas, you could have owned this stock over under a year since its IPO, and it's currently up 509%. Now, this is an awesome company. It's going to give us more exposure than to just silver, and I'm going to explain why as we break this company down. Now, this is a junior miner, as they call them, with exposure to Canada, which gives us a little bit less political risk, with some newer exposure to Mexico as well. It's a $68 million market cap. So it claims that there is a new opportunity on the horizon. Silver Dollar IPO'd in 2020 with a recently closed a $10.5 million financing deal led by billionaire mining investor Eric Sprott and New York Stock Exchange listed First Majestic Silver here, folks. Now, I believe First Majestic actually has a 16% weighting in some of these projects here, but let's just get right into this, guys, because there's some stuff that I really want to point out. And we're going to take a look at their two primary mines first. One of them, this is the Mexican mine, the La Joya Silver Project. And if we scroll down, you can go through and take a look at, obviously, their projections here as they plan on mining. I do believe going into 2021, this is when a lot of these projects are going to kick off. But the reason that I like these companies so much is this little kind of small cap, junior miner is trading in more than just silver. They're giving you access to gold, copper, and just a lot of it. And we are not talking small amounts of precious metals. And I told you guys, if silver doubles, I mean, you're doubling your money on an ounce. But they are doubling on roughly, and again, this is at the cutoff rate of around 78 million ounces of silver. We're talking about 524,000 ounces of gold and 436 million ounces of copper. And I know a lot of you have been mentioning to me that you're getting into a wide, diverse portfolio of not just gold, but a lot of these different assets as well. And again, if you can get that through one company, I still think your upside potential would be much greater than owning the actual physical products themselves and having to manage them and store them and all of the jazz that kind of comes along with that. Now, before we look at the Canadian mine real quick, I just want to touch base here, guys, on the fact of kind of the risk reward benefit, because these things have priced in kind of that first idea of stimulus, but they have been flatlining ever since. And we know we're going to be getting more stimulus coming in why we know we're going to be getting further lockdowns and further stress until we can get these vaccines is basically a lot of these countries, a lot of the states, especially here in Canada, are hesitant on exactly what to do. And this is going to continue to put stress on the dollar, especially when we're in these low interest rate environments here, guys, leading to some still continued upside potential in the precious metal market. I do not think we've hit an overvalued level here yet. And just taking a look at the Red Lake area property, which is the Canadian mine located in Northwest Ontario and has produced 29 million ounces of gold and is one of Canada's most prolific gold mining districts. The discovery of gold of an unturned tree by brother Lauren and Ray Howie in the summer of 1925 led to North America's last great gold rush, and by 1926 over 3,000 people had converged on Red Lake area to seek their fortunes. Today, the Red Lake District is comprised of 5 communities, all built around 28 past producing or currently operating gold mines. This is a mining-friendly, publicly stable jurisdiction with a skilled labor force and infrastructure built to serve the mining industry. Now, Silver Dollar entered into an option agreement in November of 2019 to earn 100% interest of the Pugwash Lake property, subject to a 1.5 net smelter returns, which is the NSR royalty, located approximately 30 kilometers southwest east of the town of Red Lake. The 4,252 hectare property is situated in structurally active area of the Red Lake Mining Division, where exploration activities has been re-energized with the success of the Great Bear Resources and the numerous high-grade gold discoveries on their Dixie property. Other active neighbors in the area include BTU Metals. So this is the mine here that's giving you the stability in the stock, because this is already a very stable country. It's already a pre-drilled mine. They kind of know what they're getting into, and everything's kind of been pre-built out. So there's a lot of kind of baked in projections that are going to be a lot more accurate, and then you're getting a little bit more risk exposure, but with a lot more upside potential. Obviously with the La Jolla project here, guys, and just taking a look at some of the corporate highlights just real quick. They got about 10.5 million in financing closed by the lead order, which we mentioned from Eric Sprott and First Majestic Silver. Eric Sprott is the icon of the precious metal market, and obviously First Majestic Silver being one of the largest mining and gold and silver companies, guys. The latest drilling at La Jolla returned significant mineralization in 15 of the 17 holes that they drilled, including 1,778 grams per ton of silver equivalent and 67.7 ounces per ton of copper. Over 2 meters in the hole. So, I mean, these numbers are absolutely stellar. They have a definitive agreement signed to acquire up to 100% interest in the La Jolla Silver Project, located in the state of Durango in Mexico on the Silver Belt. So this is a company well poised to start like really advancing on this stuff, moving into 2021, which is kind of where a lot of the advantageous aspects of owning a stock like this are going to be. This is probably the most bullish the entire mining sector has ever experienced in probably over the last decade, since the last financial crisis in 2008 here, folks. And just taking a look at the financial reporting on this company, because again, we're getting into startup phase here, a recent IPO, guys. They currently have cash on hand, again, being a junior miner, of $702,000. Now, this report's backdated a little bit much here because it does not include the most recent financing. I mean, this report is from August 31st of 2020, which was their annual audit here, folks. But one of the biggest concerns that you're going to have here, because when we're looking at these startups that are trying to raise a lot of capital, if we scroll down, the first thing that I want to show you, which is the biggest risk to companies and owning companies like this, guys, is the massive share dilution. If we take a look at the weighted average number of shares outstanding, guys, if we go to 2019 when there were 7.9 million shares outstanding, we are now sitting at 14.8 million shares outstanding. So these are drastically different numbers within a year to basically dilute shareholders by half. But again, it is incredible to see, even with all that share dilution, which probably came into the IPO of the company, in my opinion. Obviously, when these stocks IPO, they probably issued a ton more shares. With the current money they've raised, the fact that these projects are kicking off the ground, I doubt there's going to be any excessive share dilution moving forward, but it's pretty incredible to see the stock run up this much against the current silver price. Now, I do not have any current exposure to these companies, and this company did reach out to me, which kind of lined up pretty good for me making this video. I'm leaving the full disclosure to that in the description below here, folks, but I am going to make the bold prediction today that when the stimulus comes back into play, the fact that we are not going to be on the other side of this pandemic, at least for another 6 to 8 months, it is likely that we're going to see another continued rally in silver, and maybe, heck, we could even see it return to the highs that it experienced back in the financial crisis, which I'm surprised it hasn't caught up to the fact that gold is heading into all-time highs too here, folks. So there's a lot of things to be bullish on. I'm going to say, coming into the next few months, we're going to be higher than we are now, and if silver goes higher, we all know these precious metal miners are going to be going a lot higher? So I passed the question off to you. I want to know what you guys think in that comment section below. But in light of all this, stay cool, stay awesome, and I look forward to catching you tomorrow.